everybody, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. What you see here on my mat are 5 things that I found on Cocoa Beach 2 weeks ago on my little holiday, and I did post a picture and numbered these. I'll pop up a picture for those of you who didn't see it in the community tab, and I asked everyone what you would be interested in seeing me turn into a piece of jewelry from my found beach objects, what you would be the most interested in. And honestly, so taken by how invested you all seem to be. And I think it's because seashells and the ocean and found beach objects is just a love for so many of us. So what I've decided to do is do all 5 of them. So today I am going to do the most challenging, I forget what number it was because I'm not looking at the picture right now, but to start with, I felt like this piece was really dark. I just didn't like the color. So I had to do a little bit of this ahead of time, and a lot of the seashell art, jewelry art, you really have to be patient because things have to dry, and patience when I'm doing something like this is not my forte because I like to do it and get it done. So I am going to be back with videos. I haven't worked out how I'm going to do the other 4, but we are going to work on this today as well as some other really cool techniques. And I'm just going to show you my finished samples because these actually are dry. These are seashells that I found on the beach, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did these cool patterns and the gilding and the little sea turtles. So, and I've also done these like really small to make charms out of. So I'm going to share that with you, and let me just pull in what I work on. I saved a piece of like foam from packing material from something I received from Amazon. But you could work on your mat, but I don't want to damage my mat. You could also get like an old washcloth, just something for a little bit of cushion. And I work with these acrylic markers. My box is quite big, but I'm going to pull it in the camera. You have to store acrylic and any paint markers, really. You need to store them horizontally, not vertically like in a pen holder. But there's all these colors in this set of acrylic markers, and they will color bead caps, they color metal, glass, like almost every surface, seashells. And so like for this one, where did it go? Right here. So for this one, as I said, I just felt like the color was so dark. There is so much texture in this piece of coral that is kind of bonded with a seashell that I couldn't really, unless I got a paintbrush and really, covered it. And I didn't want to do that. I still want to see the shell, but I just took this kind of oyster colored white marker, and this one these have a fat tip and a skinny tip, and I used the fat tip, and I just went around and, lightened the color. And then I have a few of these markers. They come in gold and silver. Now this one is an oil-based, very opaque, very metallic paint marker, and I love this. So like this one gives you the look of the gilding that like on a commercially done seashell, but I did my own little found seashell and made a charm out of it for this bracelet. I can link this video if you didn't see it. And then I do a tester. So let me show you. This is a tester seashell for when I started this project. So there's everything. There's silver polka dots, there's gilding. This is what it looked like, and I'm probably going to do something with this side because that side is so pretty. But I do a little tester seashell when I'm doing a project like this, just so that I don't waste a found element, because if I mess it up, I can't just go get another one. It's one of a kind. So on the back here is where I started painting and started my gilding. And I'm just going to shake this a little bit and get the cap off and kind of show you the plan here. I'm just going to go around and like highlight these natural, what are they? Natural grooves, just to make the texture show up a little bit. And the cool thing about markers, they're so clean and neat. You guys, I am not a painter. I don't even like to paint. I make a mess with it. I make a mess just opening paint, but I do pretty well with the markers. I feel like I have control, and if I don't get exactly the concentration that I want, I can just go back with the tip of my marker and make it better. So I'm going to do this all the way around. Okay. I'm going to just let that dry for a little bit. And if I didn't say, to me that naturally screams pendant. With some of the other things, like this one, I think I'm going to turn it into a bracelet bar, but this one screams pendant. And I'm going to address a question that I get sometimes. So when I'm on the beach and I pick up, seashells, I look for ones that have a natural hole or a natural place for me to lay my wire, but sometimes you find a really beautiful one that doesn't have a hole and really like no place to really lay your wire. So I'm going to address both of those things. Now I have this little hand drill. This, let me show you all the drill bits. There are all these teeny tiny little drill bits in here that go from almost, gosh, it almost looks, I don't even know if you can see, almost looks thread-like and goes up to a little bit thicker. And to me, on certain shells, this is very labor intensive, and I have arthritis in my hands, so I don't like to do a whole lot of this. But I did want to show you how it works. I've chosen a pretty small drill bit in here, and I actually put the hole in this shell. It did not have a hole. So I just turned it over and I just started, and like that. And then I was working on this one and I started right here. I don't know if you can see that I put it down, and you just really have to start by turning, and you make a little groove in the shell, and then you just have to keep going until you go through. I worked on this one, and it's so thick that I just didn't want to do the labor. And honestly, like I said, I don't do a lot of drilling. It's not good to breathe in the dust, so you really need, if you're going to sit and do a lot of this, you really need to have a mask on because this makes dust, and it's really not good to breathe it in. But if I found something like this one is perfect, and I really hope that you can see in the camera that there is like a little weak spot here and here where the natural shell is gone. And if you look on the inside, and again, I'm not sure what you guys are able to see in the camera lens, but I can see how it's thinner there and there. So this actually would be a really good seashell to drill a hole. And so I'm going to give it a go. And you see why the spongy, like a spongy work surface really helps. And you just turn, and you're like making a little natural groove. And you can break these, and I'm going to show you one that I broke trying to put a hole in it. So, it's just something to be wary of. It can happen. So if you really love something that you found and you really want it for a piece of jewelry, I'm going to show you another option besides doing this, and it's actually my favorite way of making a place to attach. But you can see that my drill, you can see that it's going through, and if I come on this side, I can't quite see it through yet. And you can really work from either side. Like on this one, I felt like there was already a natural start on the front, what I'm considering the front. So that's where I put my little drill. Let's see if I can see. Yeah, I can kind of see my spot right there. So we can maybe go from this side too and start making a little spot. I can feel my drill. Just, it just chips away at the seashell. You'll start seeing some dust. It was actually easier. No two are alike. So on each piece, you just have to determine where you want to make the hole, where it would be best, and what's going to be the easiest, the less labor intensive. But as you can see, this is a little bit of work. Now you could probably do a power drill. I'm not allowed to play with power tools or torches or flames. I'm barely allowed to have a little candle lighter. But you could do that. But like I said, I'm not really a painter, and when I'm making my jewelry and doing these things, I like to just stay comfortably at my work table and do my thing. So as you can see, this is a little bit of work. Now I'm gonna mention something else that I've seen people do it, where they take a fire starter, like a lighter or something, and heat up the shell and take the points of scissors, and while the shell is warm, just pop it through and make a hole that way. I don't do that because I just feel like it's too abrupt and I can't really pay attention to what I'm doing, so I don't do that. And like I said, I don't do this very much either because this is just way too much labor and I want to get to making jewelry. So, okay, so I just went through, you know, and I literally am not editing that out. I wanted you to see exactly in real time what it took. So I'm chatting while I'm, you know, doing this back and forth. But so I have a hole in that shell that I could put a jump ring, a piece of wire, whatever I want to do. And so that's my little drill with all the bits. I'll put a link to that in the description box. In my favorite tools, there's always a link to this set. It is a set of bead reamers and files and this little thing, which could also be used like a handheld drill. So I will put a link in the description box for that. Well, it's always there actually if you go in my favorite tools. But, and so that one's done, this one's done. But I also decided that if I could make little dishes out of my seashells, that I could also embellish them this way and make, you know, charms or pendants. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did that, but this is the shell that I broke trying to put a hole right there. So I decided that now I have like a natural place to lay my wire. So I went ahead and did this. It's dry. It was about an hour ago. And now I'm going to wire wrap this shell. But for this one, as I said, I just worked and worked. Can you see right there? Can you see that I worked and worked? And this is just going to be a too labor intensive. And I really love this one because it's so smooth already. The ocean, you know, smoothed it out. So my favorite way of handling a seashell that doesn't have a hole is to play in my bead caps and get my E6000 glue out. So I took 2 bead caps that fit pretty well on the top of this shell. Like I really like that. And then I'm gonna pop this one right on top and do a double. But what you do is take a little piece of wire, whatever you would like your simple loop or your wire wrapped loop to be out of, and you're gonna create a kind of a head pin that gets glued onto the shell. And this is my favorite way to address a shell that, you know, that you need to be able to attach. I just make a little anything. This is never going to be seen again. So just make a little thing like that and go ahead and set up my bead caps. That's how I'm going to want it, and get it situated on top. And I do these, as I said, you have to be patient when, I'm sorry, I'm looking for my E6000 glue. You have to be patient because you can't wire wrap this until this is set up or you'll pull it right off of there. So a lot of times when I sit down to do charms and things, I do all of this like the day before I'm actually going to make jewelry. So you kind of have to, you know, plan yourself out. But the E6000 glue is really great for this kind of thing. It pretty much bonds anything, and it does take a little bit to set up, so you have plenty of time to arrange things and lean this somewhere. You know, I'll just prop it somewhere until it's dry. So my wire is inside there, and I'm just going to get this on here the way that I would want it. And you see that I have one little prong. This is one of those malleable bead caps. So one little prong that's not quite sitting the way that I want it. So I just do that, pull my wire up, and I'm gonna just set this off to the side to dry just as I have it there. And when this is dry, I will be able to either wire wrap this loop or make a simple loop there. But I love that. I love the gold. You know, and it's just a great solution for a shell that doesn't have a hole in it if you don't want to bother drilling. So I'm going to just find a place right. I have a lamp on my work table. I'm going to just prop this against my lamp. So what am I going to do next? Oh, let's address this one. So on this one, I have played and played and played with this, and look what I've found. I have found this on the beach, and this has a hole in, kind of a hole in the middle, and I was going to like make this a component for a bracelet, but look at this, you guys. It's like a little puzzle. It fits perfectly. It fits absolutely perfectly on the top of that. So I am going to do that same thing. I'm going to put my E6000 glue here and put a dollop there, and I'm going to glue this because that to me was like really unattractive, and I was going to wrap a lot of wire around it when I picked this up and I was looking at it, but this fits in here in the most perfect way. I mean, it's like a little bit of a bead puzzle, and I just thought that was gorgeous. And then I also found a few of these on Cocoa Beach, and I'm going to glue that in here, but I'm going to do this after I do my wire wrapping, because right here is where I intend to lay my wire, and I intend to go across because there's a little groove here that my wire can rest in, and a groove here to get it up to the top and do a wrapped loop. So this is going to be a really cool pendant, and what I'm thinking is it's going to be like a necklace pendant for some coconut beads and some creamy colored heishi beads and some gold, you know, like some gold accents, and that's going to be a pendant for that. So but like I said, you have to be patient when you're doing this because this needs to dry before I can do any wire wrapping. So I have to set this guy aside as well. So let's move on to these cool things. I'm going to show you what I have done. This one I did about an hour ago, and it's pretty dry. It's a little bit in there, it's a little bit damp, but this is beautiful. And I'm going to just point out here, can you see the dark spot here? That was in the seashell. So if you want to, you can paint your seashells white before you do this. It depends on what you're going to be covering it with. I knew that I was going to be gluing another little seashell in here the way that I did the turtles on this one. I knew that I was going to be glue a little found object. I found this as well. So I'm going to get my E6000 out again and put a little dollop of glue right here and put that seashell there. And then when this is dry, I'll come back and put my nail lacquer on it to make it look shiny wet like it's still in the ocean, and maybe even do a little gilding. But I'm just going to glue that. And like I love the E6000 because you have time to decide how you want to place things. Like that looks much better that way. And I'm going to use these little dishes for my crimp tubes. If you have jump rings that you always reach for a certain jump ring, you want to put oval jump rings or something. So I have little dishes for my work table, and so I just love them, and it's such a great thing to do. If this is too big of a pendant, if this would be too big of a jewelry item for you, make a little dish for your jewelry findings. So let me show you what I am using here, and I'm going to tell you guys, this is a whole bag of these, 24 of these at the craft store for $2. And go to your home stores, your discount department stores, the clearance aisles, and pick out some napkins that are on clearance with some really beautiful patterns. This one already has some gold foil in the napkin pattern, and these are some of the ones that I'm working with. Like this was the napkin that I used on this seashell. I don't think I did this one yet. I found this one with little tropical drinks, so that would be really cute. Here's one with a little kind of a pink bamboo pattern, little bottles of champagne. This one is the one that I used for here. They're just fun. This is the one that I used for this little dish. So they're just fun, and they're just like colorful, and you really can't go wrong. So I want to do one with you. I have another seashell here, and I'm going to do one of these flowers with, I want to try to get the bow in here, and maybe some of these flowers. I'm just going to open this up, and you don't even need scissors. Just going to rip a section. The shells that I have are not super big, so I'm just going to rip a little section here to work with. And you can get so many out of one napkin. Honestly, you can. So if you wanted to do this with a friend or a neighbor, you guys could cut the cost of already very inexpensive supplies in half. So I'm just going to get it to its very thinnest. And I will tell you that just to show you, like if you have a little bit of white background on your napkin, like on this one, and I'm going to show you what I did, because this I overlaid the napkin on top of itself in a few places in order to get all the patterns on such a small surface. I'll show you what I mean on that one. But the white surface really helps, because there's going to be areas, because this is concave, there's going to be areas that you can't lay your napkin flat, so you end up doing like a little fold. And if you have white, it doesn't show because it just blends right in with the shell. So I'm going to take some Mod Podge, and this is also really expensive, and my son and I just discovered, if you're in America and you know Dollar Tree, then we have discovered that they have Mod Podge for $1.25 in the little small bottles, which would be perfect for this. I think you could also use like a little craft paint brush, like a watercolor brush, but I've been doing fine with these. And like I said, my shells are pretty white, so I didn't feel like I needed to paint the inside white. But I'm just going to take a hold of this and just put a nice thick coat. And you want to get the edge a little bit as well. I have to tell you guys, I saw these seashell dishes in a jewelry store where local jewelry artists sold their items, and I thought they were lovely, and they were very expensive. I want to say they were like $26 per little shell, and I loved them, but I just wouldn't pay that for it. And I did a little bit of research and found out that they are super easy to make, and of course it gave me ideas for turning shells into pendants too. So now you just want to pick a spot on your napkin. I really want that little bow in mine, so I'm gonna just pick a spot and just place it in there and stick it down. And like I said, you're gonna have a few little folds here and there. You just can't avoid it because it's not flat. A seashell is obviously not flat, but when you put your last coat on, they disappear pretty much. So just like mold it inside there. You do want to be careful in this part, like if your shell is very deep, because you can rip your napkin if you're not gentle. But you do want it flat. You don't want a bubble underneath. I got that one pretty good. And then just go over the edge and use the edge of the seashell to rip away the excess. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because you'll pick up the edges with your little sponge brush when you go back to do your next coat. Just pull away what you don't want. And here where the shell is so deep is always a little challenging, but just get it off and get it as neat as you can. You have a little time before everything dries. Now you're going to come back with another coat of your Mod Podge right on top. It dries clear, and it also kind of, places everything where you want it as far as like these edges. It almost looks like you've just destroyed your work when you do the top coat, but you have not. I've been leaving mine for about an hour before I do my next embellishment, but we can move on to this one because it's dry except for my seashell. It's already sitting up really nicely, and I'm going to do the same thing that I showed you with the pen. I'm going to come in with my gold pen, and these are available in silver as well if you're a silver lover. I am a gold girl, so I'm just going to come in. You can also buy gold paint, metallic gold paint in a jar, and do this with a brush, but like I said, I'm not a painter, so for me this keeps me you know, without making a mess. And I feel like there's such a little amount of paint coming out that it's kind of foolproof if you're not great with painting like I am not. And you can go back and do, you know, make it a little thicker. Like I usually start with one thin line. Look at that. So beautiful and so simple. So when this is dry, I will do the same thing. I know it's a little hard to see the pattern, but these are so fun to make, and those would make fabulous, fabulous gifts. And so I'm going to do another one of these. This one, let's see. This one, I think. Wait, this one's a little bit bigger, so you'll be able to see a little bit better how to do it when you're working on this side of the shell. And in some ways that's even a little bit easier because you don't have the concave part to deal with. And I'm going to do this one again because I think that using these as charms with a lavender, turquoise, and coral pink piece would be so pretty. I'm just going to rip a little section. And you just want to get to the thinnest part of the napkin. So remove this white liner. Okay, and now I'm going to, my hole is right there, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it because I can see from the inside where I need to puncture through with a jump ring or a piece of wire. On this one I'm thinking I'm going to do wire, and you just want to coat the shell just like we did before. And I'm going to choose my spot. I think I'm going to get this little bit of coral and purple right here on my napkin. And just get it on the shell. And just pull away the excess. And so see how I pulled a little too hard right there? It's okay, because even if I hadn't, I was still planning to go back on top. And that's what I was saying, a white ground on your napkin patterns. Whoops, it stuck to my thumb. A white ground on your napkin patterns can really work in your favor. I'm going to come over here to where the coral is and lay this on top again. So just to layer the colors and patterns a little bit. It's so forgiving, because so if you get some of your print like stuck to you like I did and you pull it off the shell, it's so forgiving. You can just do another piece right on top. Oh, that one turned out great. Look at that. That turned out so great. Okay, so it is ready. But if you wanted to, like if I want to put a little bit more purple, like maybe, where do I want? I really like the way this one turned out. Maybe right here. Let's say I'm going to put a little bit more purple here. I'm just going to add a little bit more of my Mod Podge and just find a purple, a little purple area on my napkin. like right here, and just lay that right on there. Get it down. So you can layer them is what I'm showing you. You can layer your colors, layer your napkins to get all the colors that you want on your piece. And just come back the same way we did and put another coat on top. Not too thick, but you can like wipe some of it off like I am. And set that one to dry, and let's put some wire on this one that I broke. So because I broke this one trying to make a hole there, I am going to take a little piece of 20 gauge wire. I don't measure. I know some of you that drives you crazy and you want measurements, but I am going to find a little spot here. That little groove is where my wire is going to rest. And then I'm going to bring this wire up to the top. I should have gone to wash my hands first because I have Mod Podge and paper napkins stuck to me. See if I can clean that a little bit. Okay, and you need like your thumb and forefinger until you get your piece like really secure. Okay, I'm just gonna bend this end down. And you guys, I really wish that there was a scientific, like step-by-step pattern, the way you could do bead weaving, but there is not. I just look for the natural path, like the natural shape. And you know, sometimes I don't like what I did at all, and then I have to cut it away and go again because it's organic, it's free form, and you might have this one perfect, but the next seashell or element that you found on the beach is not at all like this. So what you did on this one doesn't work on the next one. And so I just really like play with my wire, and I'm really brave with it because you can't get it wrong. Whatever you do is going to look great, and each one is different. And really the goal is to get a place that you can attach it and make jewelry out of it. And if you like it, and you know, I love the way wire looks laying across beads and natural elements. I just think it's a really, really good look. And so I've ended up with kind of a funny little loop there, and I don't know how I feel about that. Let me see if I pull it down a little bit. So like I said, this is really just playing and embracing natural shapes and elements, and like that is really, really secure in there. But a lot of times what I'll do is come to the back and careful not to break anything, but just put a little twist in the wire. It looks really pretty, but it tightens everything up as well. And then you have to decide if you want to do a simple loop or a wrapped loop. And I am thinking, what am I thinking? I'm thinking wrapped loop. I'm going to put a bend in this wire and just do a normal wire wrapped loop here. And you know, just like anything that we make, when you trim, you just want to make sure that your ends, there's nothing sharp. So just like when you're wrapping a bead, just gently tuck your end. I mean, that is really, really secure in there, and it looks really cool. I actually like that. I wonder if I should do, sometimes I'll go back and do that on the front side too, but I really like it. I think that's really, really cool. It's so unique. And again, this could be a charm on a bracelet. You know, this could even be like, I used the seashell for the closure on this bracelet, but it's just really, really fun to play with them. And so let's have a look and see if this is set up enough to put some wire in it. It's not really set up. Like I said, you really have to be patient when you're working with this. And like I said, I want to do my wire, get my hook up here, and then I want to add, probably until the wire's on, I don't know, but probably add another little seashell. So it's almost like a seashell collage to that one. Okay, so let me clean up a little bit while that dries, and I'll come back and show you how that's going to get wrapped. Mostly everything is dry. This guy is ready to work on, but I had one more shell that I've started. I don't know if you can see right there. I've started to drill a little hole, and it's just the right thickness to put a hole in, and it's so small it would be a little difficult to wrap wire around it. So while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and get this ready. And so I'm not really going to make a piece of jewelry today, but you will be seeing the things that I have prepared in my videos coming up this summer. So I just wanted to get one more shell with a drilled hole. But as I said, my alternative is doing this. I really like, if there's no hole, I really like a little E6000 glue, some bead caps, and some wire, and make my attachment that way. But this is another option. I just felt it go through. There we go. So I have a little space to put some wire or a jump ring on this little guy here. Okay, and so let me show you. This is one of my napkins. I think this is my favorite one. I gilded my seashell and glued it, and I don't know if you can tell, but I use dollar store nail lacquer. It's quite thick to give my seashells a little glossiness to kind of look like they are still in the water. And then on this one, I have a little fish bead, so I glued a little fish on here, and some of them I just left them plain. I use my marker to make like some polka dots here and there. I didn't do polka dots on that one. Just add a little gilding. They're so pretty, and these are so fun for your work tables to like put your seed beads in. If you're working with a seed bead like this one, gold seed beads will be beautiful in there. So I just had so much fun doing these. They make great gifts too. I'm a lifelong Floridian. You would think that I would not have so much joy with these, because my mother, in fact, I didn't tell you guys, but all of these seashells were in a big bag of seashells that my mother left when she passed away, and she collected all of them over the years. She sorted her seashells. She absolutely loved seashell projects, and so I have a lot more of that she picked up with her own little hands on the beaches here in Florida. She was born and raised right here in Orlando, Florida. And so these kind of have a special place in my heart. My mother would absolutely love what I've done here. I can tell you she would. So we did this one together, and what I did is I went ahead and prepared a couple more in the same pattern, so that if I want to do a piece of jewelry, some kind of a dangle, I have a coordinating set. And so once you're finished lacquering and doing your gilding, you might have to go like with an awl and clear the holes, because you've got a top coat of Mod Podge on these, or like the nail lacquer. So this one, no hole. This one, the hole is pretty clear because it was pretty big, natural. It had a natural hole. I love the pink and orange napkin that I had. That's probably my favorite dish. I love a pink and orange color palette for the summer. So I went ahead and created 3 of these. This is the one that I drilled the hole in. And so I'm just gonna like make sure the holes are clear enough to get a piece of wire in here. And I'm not sure what my project will be, but I love pink and orange and seashells in the summer. It's such a good look. So let's go to this pendant that everyone was so intrigued about. I took my pen and kind of followed the swirl on the glued on bit, and the whole thing has been brushed with that nail lacquer front and back, and it doesn't make it super shiny, but it was very dry and dull looking before I did that. So like, I don't know if the camera's really showing you, but it doesn't feel so dry either. It feels like it does have a little coating on. These are all so very beautiful, but maybe a little bit distracting. So let me straighten up a little bit here. I'm going to take a pretty long piece of my 20 gauge wire, and again, I'm going to say this again, you really can't get this wrong, because whatever you do, whatever the natural path of the wire, make this with your heart. You know, if you do a project like this, you really can't mess it up. But I wish I could give you a step-by-step directions, but every single piece will be different. So when I looked at this, I did see that I could lay my wire in here, and I also see this little area here where I could lay my wire. So I'm going to come from behind, I think. I take a moment too to assess and in my mind kind of decide where I would go with the wire. And I also advise to go slowly with wire because it performs a lot better. And if you keep your wire warm a little bit between your fingers, it will also respond a little bit better to what you want it to do. So I think I'm going to come behind, and I think, let's see, let me just think for one moment. Okay, I have a little plan. I'm going to hold it really tight with my thumb and forefinger. And I've got, you know, the goal here is to get up to the top, right? Because we need to make a loop, or what I've determined is the top. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to bring this across the front. It's resting in that, I'm going to get it in that groove. If you need your pliers, you know, for strength, you got that. And I'm going to come around and come back around this way. So as I'm assessing this, I'm thinking that on the back, I could lay this here, snip it, and tuck my end under that wire. But I'm going to try something because I have this little bit of wire. So I'm going to fold this around to the front, and I'm going to try creating a spiral right here and maybe lay it right there just to mimic this spiral. So I'm going to come right here and start a little curly Q. And I love it, but I do think that I want to get it under here. So I'm going to just back this up a little bit. Pull it tight. And I want this to be, I want to get this wire down beneath my spiral shell a little bit, and I think I'm going to try pulling this really tight and pulling it above like that. Just get my pliers in there. Get it flat. Be right here. Maybe right here. I'm just going to put a little twist in there, and let's see, do I want to do one right here? That is a really cool pendant. So I think I'm going to come right here and do a wrapped loop. I'm just doing the wrapped loop because I like the thickness of a wrap. So I'm just going to go like this, like that, and just a normal wire wrapped loop. There's the back, there's the front. It's really nice and firm. And now I can decide if I do want to glue this little shell in there. What do you guys think? I kind of like it. I want to make so that it really sits in there. It could go in that groove as well. But I kind of like that channel. I like seeing the natural shape of this found object. I kind of like that. I think I'm going to put some glue and put that just like that. A little bit more E6000. And like I said, the nice thing about the E6000 is you have plenty of time to arrange yourself. But there is the coolest one-of-a-kind natural pendant. Turn that a little bit to sit in there like that. I think that is so pretty. I feel like I brightened it up a little bit. I just feel like it's so interesting and natural. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm thinking that this would be beautiful just on a really simple leather cord. But as I said, I also considered like doing a piece with some coconut beads and turquoise and you know, a little bit of this natural, what is this? This is it doesn't even tell me. These are just craft store items. This one, I'm a clearance shopper. This was on clearance for $2.24. It was originally $9. So even at half price, it would have been $4, but I got it for $2.24. And I was thinking, oh, I have so many seashell things to do this season. So I'm going to let that dry, and I will put links in the description box to this marker, which is the oil-based. I also have an acrylic one, and they all give you a little bit different gold. I've experimented with the golds and silvers. Some are a little bit more metallic. This is my favorite, but I have used the other ones too. I use them, you know, as I said, if you're going to do this, take a tester shell, one that you don't really have a plan for, so that you can see what your colors look like and, you know, see what things are looking like before you do it to a project. So I'll be back. You'll be seeing these things in my designs this summer, and I'll be back. Maybe I'm going to do these in 2 videos, because my idea is to use both of these to make a pendant. I'm thinking like this, to create an articulated pendant with these two, and I'm thinking that I want to do a bracelet bar with this piece, maybe that way, create a bracelet bar with this piece, and this is going to be another pendant, and I have a really cool idea for what to do in here. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, it would be greatly appreciated. It helps support my work, and I thank you so much for watching. I really hope you got some inspiration or some ideas, and these little things are so fun that we can do with our beads. If we make a lot of jewelry for like family members and friends, and we've just made everything under the sun for them, and we don't know what to do, these make the sweetest gifts. And you could do bigger shells and, you know, fill them with candy and put some cellophane around them and make really, really beautiful gifts. So I thank you again. I hope everybody's having a great summer, and I'll see you in the next video.